In the wet southern lands of Java, the main island of Indonesia, a 68-year-old Irishman is busy performing miracles. The extensive business empire he has grown in construction, trucking, education and banking is today worth millions, and one could expect him now to be retiring a wealthy man. But Charlie Burrows, the man that people here call Romo, the great leader, has no plans to stop working anytime soon. Because Charlie is a missionary priest, a low-key maverick who uses the power of money for the common good.
Yeah, I believe in fellas like Robin Hood. You know, you rob the rich to feed the poor, and I think the fellow up above would be in agreement with me.
I think of him as the catalyst man. What is a catalyst? I think it's like dropping a pebble into a pool, and the ripples go out. He came in as one person, and because he's there, all sorts of ripples have gone out into the community.
Menurut saya, ini berbicara kepribadian. Tentunya Romo Magan mempunyai kepribadian yang benar-benar punya toleransi tinggi, tanggung jawab tinggi. Benar-benar kepribadian Romo orang-orang yang, ya katakan memang termasuk orang yang punya nomor di Kabupaten Cilacap.
Ini nanti Pak Romo Nikola akan ke sini.
Yang bertanggung jawab tentang wilayah-wilayah kita ini sehingga sudah bisa maju.
I'm a bit arrogant, yeah. Number one, what the fellow above thinks me, and I think he thinks I'm a bit of a crook, to be honest, yeah. And I think myself I'm a bit of a crook, but I can get things done. The earthquake just 6 days ago, the house fell down. They've put up this temporary one. They've re-salvaged the bamboo and asbestos for a temporary house, yeah, and they'll eventually rebuild. I'm intuitive. If somebody's no bloody house, they need a house. I don't need to have a meeting about it. Somebody's no school, I don't need a meeting about it. And my father called me a bit of a chancer. That's all right. If my father said I'm a bloody chancer, I believe him more than I believe anybody else in the world. Pope or anybody.
Charlie Burrows was born in 1943 and grew up in Dublin's North Strand. His mother worked at home, rearing 4 children, while his father, a trade union man, worked as a commercial traveller. His call came at 19 when he made a spur-of-the-moment decision to contact the Oblates. Always an independent spirit, his parents knew nothing of his decision.
My mother used to tell the Oblates that Charlie is very stubborn, and you're wasting your time trying to force him to do anything, because we found that out when he was 3 or 4 years old, and we just let him do his own thing, and that made for a quiet house. So if you try and force him to do something, you're going to have problems.
Charlie was ordained a priest in 1969, and after 2 years in Australia, the young maverick was sent to Cilacap on Java's southern coast to work with the island's poor.
It's desperately poor, and desperately populated. The poverty level was very palpable, and is. People living on less than $1 a day, no infrastructure, no social infrastructure, there's no benefits or anything like that.
I was only in Cilacap for a day when I was told to go somewhere, and I got into this speedboat, and I arrived up into these, there were sea villages at the time. And the people, they had no health care. Many of them were illiterate, the adults and so on and so forth, yeah. They have very low education. This fella came to the door and he was hungry. He was really hungry, he was like a skeleton. And I went into the village and they were all like skeletons. It was like Biafra or one of those African places. So I was really just wondering how to get food for them, yeah.
The young priest's first solution to the people's hunger was to begin building roads.
What is an entrepreneur anyway is someone who sees the unusual, who sees a market opportunity. And he saw these quarries that were unused, borrowed money, bought 30 dump trucks, and suddenly he's in the construction business.
Well, the problem was when you wanted to do anything out there, people try and rip you off. So I could see the only way I needed to have trucks of my own, yeah? So then I bought a truck actually, and then that meant we could do things without getting ripped off. Then I got more trucks and more trucks and more trucks.
We looked out our window on our first day in Chillichap and we saw these rows and rows of trucks there.
Psychologist Adele Quinn spent a few months working with Charlie in Chillichap.
Some of them were broken down, but we were asking, why have you still got these, old rusty trucks? And he was like, any of the parts that are of any use from those trucks, we put them into other trucks. Nothing is ever dumped out, it's all recycled.
We just supply the rocks, bring them out with the truck and dump them there, and then the people do everything else themselves. We'd have about 100, 200 villages at the moment looking for roads.
Banyak, jadi tentunya kalau berbicara proyek Roma itu padat karya yang sasarannya adalah rata-rata ke jalan. Jalan itu yang kita lalui, itu sebenarnya awalnya itu jembatan jalan-jalan yang dibangun oleh Roma.
Isolation creates poverty. If you're a small farmer, bringing tapioca in to sell costs you money to get there. If you put the road in, you lessen that cost, you increase the few pence profit he's got. From a health point of view, you can get help in an emergency where you couldn't before and people die.
It links up all these tiny villages out in the middle of nowhere. It makes life so much easier for them. They can travel into the town, they can get into schools if they need to.
The further you go in, the poorer the people are. And you can see there's no electricity poles in here yet, but eventually, with the road, they'll get electricity, bring in building materials, and the houses can be upgraded little by little. And also bringing in materials to build schools, clinics. And the road is the most basic facility to bring about economic development. People that see roads, that we're used to in developed countries, seeing roads. We don't see how important they are until you don't have them, yeah?
These roads have another vital purpose. They serve as dikes, keeping the sea at bay and the rivers from flooding. Altogether, 2,000 hectares of land have been reclaimed and given to the poorest families, who have planted the new fields with rice.